Okay, so we're learning the Maamar Zochor as Ashalasul Chamolik 1934. It was said by the previous Rebbe in Riga. And we are on page 142, I believe. And where are we? I think, you know what, let's just start from the bottom of 141. We'll do it quickly, okay? Even someone who descends gradually, or someone who falls from the top to the bottom in one flat fall, God forbid, there's a reason why he has this descent and fall. The reason is it's because he lacks a tentativeness to spirituality. Ruchnius unton mit sich vernimmt nicht kein Ort. Spirituality and refining oneself is not important to this individual. And when this is so, then even when he learns Torah and he does mitzvahs and everything else, and he davens it's without a feeling, without service. Top of 142. So the Rebbe says, this is the reason why he begins to gradually descend, which ultimately leads to a complete fall. If Ruchnius would be important to him, then he knows how to move in, then he would comprehend very well and in an absolute way the limud mitzvahs, he would understand we're doing Torah and learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and davening without an inner vitality and enthusiasm, meaning a feeling that I'm doing this because it's a godly act. It's not just a good deed. It's not just interesting information, but it's a godly experience. A getliche gefühl, who keguf b'lei neshama. So he would know that. And he doesn't have that. He would know it's like having a body without a soul. All creatures. Although all creatures don't know the essence of what life is, of life, but the dearness, the preciousness of life, of living life, of being alive, even the creatures, the animals, and everything else knows. Surely they know if, God forbid, they die, when they know that there's no life at all. This everyone knows. So when the person takes the time to reflect that his entire learning, tefillah, his davening, is like a body without a soul. This leads him to, this leads him to do an avodah, not an aveda, an avodah, to serve God better. What is avodah, Yoini? Avodah. What is avodah? He betfila. It's through davening. His boinanus, reflecting and meditating, being in a liki on the godly concept. Here the Rebbe says in a nutshell what Chabad meditation is. His boinanus being a liki. It's not about faith, and it's not about bitochen, and it's not about your bank account, and it's not about your health. Those are all good things and important things. But Chabad, his boinanus is explain to me. I want to understand how God created the world. Is it ilu v'olo, cause and effect, or is it yesh mi'ayin, something from nothing, or is it both? And if it's both, how is it both? So kind of Chabad, his boinanus takes you into an unknown world, another reality, another dimension. And on one hand, it seems to be superfluous and like extra and a waste of time. I got to bring food on my table. I have to be a mensch to someone else. What's this boinanus all about? Says the Rebbe, that's how you begin having a relationship with God. That's how Torah and mitzvahs yoni becomes holy. And this is the answer why Chabad, not Chabad. This is why a person can daven and learn and do mitzvahs and everything, and at the end he feels like he doesn't. It's not godly. It's a human act. It's humanistic. Lahavdil, the non-Jews, they also feel bad when someone doesn't have what to eat and where to sleep. You don't have to be a yid for that. You sure don't have to be a chassid for that. So what's the difference? The answer is the difference is the hisbonenus. When you're doing this bonenus, you get to a point where you start sensing there's something godly going on here. Godly. That's why I say, when people ask me, what's Hasidus? My answer in a nutshell is, it's a divine experience. It's a divine study. It's a study of divinity. Musar is not a study of divinity. Gemara is not a study. It's godly. It's Torah. But the manner in which you study that part of Torah is about a law and about an ox and about ethics. Which part of Torah studies God, Chassidus, in its pure abstract form? You can compare it, Hillel, maybe to abstract mathematics versus practical mathematics. And yet, one second, and yet, Hillel, when you, as you know, you've been learning Chassidus seriously for several years, that when you study such Chassidus, and you especially meditate or reflect on it, it leads to the ultimate practicality of being a better Yid and a better mensch and everything else. It's so interesting. Because on one hand, Avram, you're flipping out. You're flying into the heaven. How does flying into heaven make you better on earth? But the strange thing is that we see people that are immersed in Chassidus are the biggest mentioned, the nicest people, the most practical people. And if not, there's something wrong with the Chassidus learning. Or maybe they only learned and they didn't do in the avodah of his bonenus. It is impossible not to do his bonenus. It's impossible to do proper Chabad his bonenus and remain removed from the world. It's not, because that's not Chabad his bonenus. So it's a funny thing. On one hand, while you're into his bonenus mode, it's about what the Rebbe says here in Moshe, Inyan Eloki, not like, Moshe says, give me something practical, I want to practice. No, it's not about practicality right now. It's about his bonus eliki. Right now, we want you to be with God, in God, God. Think about God. How did God create the world? Why did he create the world? Who is God? Who is he not? How do I know him? What's his essence? What's his manifestation? What's a lot energy? How many energies? What's pnimius? What's chitzonius? It's a trip into a foreign country unknown to the person, and that particular style reveals in the Jew that there's something else. They're not just another piece of flesh, and not just another piece of Jewish flesh. It's a likus, divinity. Yes, Hillel.
I just want to comment, Derech Agav, that your words reminded me of a book I just finished that I highly, extraordinarily recommend. It's called The Cosmic Puzzle by a mathematician I used to know from Baltimore named Harold Gans, and it's an attempt to examine the science behind how we know God. It's a kind of scientific contemplation of God, and it's a fascinating read.
Interesting. Thank you. Howard. Howard Gans.
Harold Gans, Gans, and just to emphasize, going from the creation of the universe to the most subatomic of particles, how by orders of magnitude that are almost mathematically inconceivable, the universe could only have been designed so specifically to support life that had at one element been off a fraction of a molecule at the times of creation, the universe itself could never have supported life. It's just an awesome set of concepts.
Beautiful, thank you. Let's continue inside, about 10 lines to the top. So he says, when he's involved in meditation, reflection on godliness, on a godly concept, using the depth of his knowledge, not just a cursory, superficial thought. God created the world, and now we're going to eat a Frankfurter. Now we're going to go jogging. How did God create a world? Why did he create a world? With what did he create a world? You understand? It's called Hamakas Hadas. It's not easy. It's work. Mind work. Pamayim. Look what the Rebbe says here, Chavra. Pamayim. Twice. Vishalosh. 3 times. At Kama Pamim. Many more times. They say there was a mashpia in Lubavitch. His name was Reb Groinem Esterman, and he was called Groinem. And all the big mashpiyim that came to America and to Russia and to Eretz Yisrael, Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, Reb Nissen Nemanov, these are the Chabad icons, the last generation, were Talmidim of his, or they were Talmidim students of his, in Lubavitch. There were numerous mashpiyim, but he was one who communicated. He was yet a chassid from the Tzemach Tzedek's time. So he was a transition. He brought a lot of that to the new Lubavitcher yeshiva students in Lubavitch in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Anyway, so they say that he would be misboinen on the concept that everything has koyach hapoel banifol, the power of the poel, the actor, is in the activity. God, the actor, the maker, is in the activity. And therefore, when you're looking at the activity, the result, it's all an expression of the actor, the poel. And they said that he was misboinen so much in that thought that when he Shabbos, after davening for hours and meditating on this, he would walk into a tree. And he would say, I see the koyach hapoel benifel. You know? So,
and if he walked into it, he really felt it.
He really felt it. Well, the other story that I grew up hearing in yeshiva from my mashpiyim is, I've told you this, and you'll get a kick out of it again. Some of you might have not heard it. So the Bacher in Lubavitch has said, hey, you're 21, you're 22, you're 23, it's time to get married. Okay, go there and there, and there's someone that you should meet. Just knock on the door. He goes there, he knocks on the door, Yoini, and the girl comes to the door, the girl that he was told to meet. But he wasn't told it was a girl, he was told that there's someone there to meet. So he went, and when he saw a girl, he says, Oi, a maidel! Oi, a girl! And he ran the other way. He had no idea that to get married, you need to marry a maidel.
Yeah.
You say the story today, no normal person will believe you that it's possible. And even if the story didn't happen, but it could have happened, because those Bacharim in Lubavitch were so immersed in Chassidus and so immersed in God that some of them, I'm not saying most of them not, but some of them were so abstract that they didn't know that marriage means a maidel, even though they learned the Gemara in Kiddushin and the Gemara in Ksupis, and they learned the Maimarim. What's my point? My point is that when you're misbainin properly, the reality is a different reality. For Greinem, there was no tree. For this Bacher, there was no girl, and etc. But the bottom line is the guy ends up marrying a girl, having children, and Greinem takes a fruit from a tree and makes a bracha. You follow? It's not as though you're left with absent-minded. That's totally the opposite. And by the way, the Rebbe...
I would just say I'd be careful who you tell that story to today, because there's unfortunately people who today who also say to get married you don't need a maid.
I know. But we're talking amongst company, and those that can't handle it on the air, let them contact me. Anyway, but the nekuda is that Chassidus, the Rebbe says here. Look at his language. Bahamokas adas pamayim v'shalosh ad kama pamim. Right there is telling you, Moshe, that his abundance, bahamokas adas, using your depth, it doesn't come. It takes a lot of his time, over and over, and even my time, and I'm not from the old geezers of 100 years ago. The mashpiyim, one in particular, he said I should review a thought of a mimer, over and over and over. And he said that's the way they did it in Lubavitch, where he learned. He said that they would meditate on two things. You understand, you'll like this, and it's important. One thing he said, that his abundance every day should be the same as yesterday, but because we get bored after a while, he said to me, therefore we should also have something new every few days or so that till we understand it properly. What's the purpose? The purpose of something new is so that you shouldn't be bored and continue going. The purpose of repetition is it should become who you are. It should become your essence. And that takes repetition. So we see it over here. Pamayim v'shalosh. Yes, Yonis.
Yeah, I heard that the Baal Shem Tov said that where your will is, that's where you are. And the Mitzvah letter said, what you meditate, that's who you are.
Say that. Yes, you are where your will is. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're thinking about Koyach HaPoel B'Nifal, you become Koyach HaPoel B'Nifal.
Yeah. But Yonason, it's not a word that abracadabra. It doesn't work that way. You think no. You have to harav. Harav is the Yiddish word for effort. You have to harav on the concept of Koyach HaPoel B'Nifal, and then you have potential to become that.
Yeah, because that's what you have to do every morning before you daven.
Yeah. Let's continue, Chavra. Good. So he says, Ad sheyeh nirgash etzloi ha'inyin v'yisoyder bi'ava v'yira, until the idea will become nirgash, felt by you, that you'll be aroused to have fear, love and fear for God. You hear that? Love and fear from God doesn't come from shaking. We discussed this, right, last week and all that. It doesn't, I'm sorry. Shake away. You could pretend you have love and fear, but it doesn't come that way. Love and fear is spontaneous when it comes out of a deep hisboneness, and then it's meaningful for you. Either you choke up, you can't, or you feel this, you want to, like I told you, right? The story where I told you that I love, and you guys loved it too. Reb Mendel, in his old age, had a friend in France, in Brunois, Reb Aaron Yosef Blenitsky. And they were together, with my wife Zayd and Reb Mendel Futterfass, all in Kharkov in the 20s, in the yeshivas, and they worked for, they all worked, the Chevra, the Bacharim, in those days, soldiers for the previous Rebbe. Anyway, he didn't see him for years. And one day he came over to someone and he said, here's money, get on a plane, go to France, get on a train and go to Brunois and give Reb Aaron Yosef a hug for me. He says, I'm old, I don't have the koyach, but I love Aaron Yosef, I need to hug him. And I can't do it, so do it for me. And the guy went. And he went there and he hugged him and he said, this is a hug from your friend, Reb Mendel Futterfass for Krakabad. Now, you understand what it means? Okay, do you understand? Each one of us, we have friends from childhood. Are we ready to do that? Do we feel that? So this is the answer. Feeling love, true love, comes from depth, not from externalities. That's all fake. Infatuation, narishkeit. True love comes from such depth that you feel. I think I've told you this too. People say, Rabbi Soloveitchik, the Rabbi Yasha Ber Soloveitchik, of why you had a relationship. One lived in Washington Heights since the 1940s. One was there since 1940s. He lived in Boston. The Rebbe lived in Crown Heights. Soloveitchik was here 3 days a week, and they met maybe 2-3 times. What kind of relationship is that? And as Joseph Telushkin wrote in his book, and I wrote in my book on the Rav and Rebbe, there was a deep relationship. For whatever reason, they didn't get to see each other face to face many times. But in soul, in essence, they were there. You want to say something, Hillel?
No, I'm just...
So what I'm saying is that what the Rebbe is saying here in the Maamar, that through his boneness, repeated his boneness, it creates a feeling of Ava and Yira, and that's true Ava and Yira. Automatically, look what he says, automatically, this causes a weakness to Nefesh Abamis. And here too, you see the Hasidic angle to the Chabad Hasidic angle to deal with Nefesh Abamis. The way you can deal with Nefesh Abamis is, hey, I'm a behemoth. I like to eat, I like to sleep, I like to enjoy, I like to have honor, I like to have pleasure, Let me deal with that. Musar does that. Fine. Chassidus says no. Chassidus says you deal with Elikus. You deal with God. Float in godliness. And when you float in godliness, your reality changes, and automatically the shtuyot become less important. And we've seen this over and over and over. Moshe, is that clear? In shul, one person says, this guy's... Remember Moshe, when someone spit by Aleinu, someone else freaked out? In shul, in Beish Kodesh. This was before Corona.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was there. I saw it. And by the way, he spit in such an edel way. I saw. We all know who this is. He went like this. I mean, like the Rebbe. The Rebbe covered his mouth like this when he did by Level Rik, and barely anything came out. You couldn't see it. But this person had a trip. Whatever. I guess he had probably an experience. He was a long time in Borough Park, probably had some experiences here. Anyway, he had already an attitude. So one attitude is, hey, curse him out. What right do you have? The other thing is, don't say anything. Just say, I'm sorry, take a tissue. I'll do it on the side. I won't, Nasa Chalish is Nefesh Abamis. The Chalisha, the Nefesh Abamis, the issue will dissipate. You'll see. The person will realize, what am I doing? What am I doing? I woke up on the wrong side this morning, so I let it out on someone who's davening to Hashem in such a... So he has a different custom than me. He's not bothering anybody. What I'm saying is that this idea that through his boneness, through immersing yourself in another platform, weakens automatically the isms and shtuyot of the Nefesh Abamis. And that's the Baal Shem Tov's approach. That's the Hasidic approach. And within Hasidus itself, there are nuances to this. But overall, that's the approach. So the whole idea of throwing stones on Shabbos and screaming and all of this, it's so far from the Baal Shem Tov as... It's the furthest thing from the Baal Shem Tov. Yes, you shouldn't drive on Shabbos, and you shouldn't disturb neighborhoods, and you should dress tznius. It's all true. But is the answer to make protests? And that's why the Rebbe Meir Kahana came to the Rebbe in the early 70s and wanted the protests. And Avi Weiss of Riverdale was a student of his. He talks about it in his book. Someone's reading his book, and he asked me about it. Public protests, and the Rebbe wasn't for it. And the Rebbe says, I know Russian Jewry, I know the KGB, I come from that, and I'm telling you, by making public protests at the UN, Jews have a harder time leaving Russia, and that was a fact. With the refuseniks, if you think that the public protest didn't stymie, didn't delay and make issues for many people to leave? Absolutely. The Russians are smart. They weren't born yesterday. You know, the Lubavitchers are smart too, but the Russians knew the score. Until today, they know the score. Okay? Could you imagine? I told you, the Chabad Shul in Russia, Moscow, is a few blocks from one of a few blocks. Diagonally across is a big building, and there's the KGB diagonally across the Rebbe Beryl Lazar 7-story Chabad house. They know what's going on. No, they've accepted it. They don't care, whatever. My point is that the way to deal with issues and freedom is throw yourself into Kedusha. Throw yourself into the realm of holiness and spirituality, and then the Nefesh Habamis is automatically chalush, weak. Kishazeh come, and the Rebbe brings the verse in the Torah, Kishazeh come, when this one rises, Zeh nofel, this one falls. It's automatic, Avram. When the Nefesh Elikis is on top and risen, what happens to Nefesh Habamis? He falls and takes it back. So all this will happen when you're engaged in avoda, in active duty. But when one lacks completely active duty work, and even if from time to time he does engage in avoda, but his avodah is not proper, which means sometimes the meditation is not truthful, and it's not deep. That's what I told you. 2 + 2 is not his bonus. 2 + 2 means you know that 2 + 2. And guess what? And even the translation of the davening of the words, that's not his bonus. That's Pirush Hamilos. And that's a translation of the words. And that's a beginning, no question about it. But abundance is meditation, reflection, contemplation. If you didn't engage in proper hisbonenus, although you did some activity, it's completely superficial. Chitzonius. And look at the next words, guys. V'rak dimyin levad. It's a fantasy. A wannabe. Wannabe Hasidim. Wannabe Jews. Wannabe. Ulefi shah. And it's only temporarily. V'chachalom yauf. And it's like a fleeting dream. Shenifsekes legamri.
That's what we say in Slichas.
That's right. Shenifsekes legamri. At the end, it completely, Avram, is cut off. It stops. It ends. While the time of davening and afterwards, there is some good remnant. In other words, while you're davening, you're inspired and you turn on. After you daven, as you walk out, you're inspired and turn on. Then you go to your eat, and then you go to your office. And then the phone calls come in, and the day goes on, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, did I daven today? Did I daven? Oh yeah, I said the words. What happened? When you were davening, you were into it. You were inspired. The answer is, the Rebbe says, there was a lack of hisbonenus. There was a lack of avodah. It wasn't enough. So the next morning you try again. The Rebbe says when it comes to worldly matters, nishkach mimenu hakoil, he forgets everything. V'cholef v'oiver gam haroshim, and the little remnant that there was is forgotten. You look at him in the middle of the day at 2-3 o'clock. Actually, we're learning now it's 2-3 o'clock by you, so it's still rare. But let's see the next 2-3 hours. As the evening goes on, did I daven today? There's no Roshan. And what happens? There becomes the overpowering of corporeality, the Nefesh Habamis and the Nefesh Habamis, and I'm one big behemoth with one big indulgence, and it's not recognizable on me that I davened at all today. It's like I didn't daven. Because if you davened, you would be a mensch. and you would be a chassid, and you would be a yid, and you would be refined, and all of a sudden you're all over the place. I will stop here, as the Rebbe only knows how to really give us a good zetz, and it's geschmack. I love when the Rebbe gives us a zetz because it keeps us off our high horse. Chevra, have a great day. We'll see everybody. Zai Gilon tomorrow. Take care. Good
day, everybody.
A good Erev Rosh Chodesh. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Zai Gilon. Bye-bye.
Amen. Amen.